Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Country with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. And let's get started with this week's X-Men books and Avengers books. So, kicking things off, technically from last week, because for whatever reason I ended up not getting a copy last week. My guess is it just didn't arrive at the shop. But we have X Factor #1. Thankfully, as this is the first issue, we don't have to, go over what happened previously. So, the issue begins with North Star, formerly of Alpha Flight, formerly the X-Men, realizing that his sister, Aurora, is dead. So he goes to Krakoa, the Arbor Magna hatchery, and starts making demands of the Five to resurrect his sister. But they need proof that she's dead. The fact that he felt it isn't proof enough. Elixir suggests that maybe he should talk to Sage. Maybe she could help. So he goes and talks to her. Turns out she was last seen at the Green Lagoon Tiki Bar before going to the Vancouver Gate. So North Star goes to the Green Lagoon, asks the Blob what if he remembers seeing Aurora a few nights ago, and yeah. She was there for the big opening party that he hosted, but left pretty early. When Polaris tells North Star that he's going about his investigation all wrong. We then get their X Factor's flyer. Is someone you love dead? X Factor investigations. Is someone you love missing? X Factor investigations. Need proof of death? X Factor investigations. So quit your bitching and come on down to the boneyard. You can't miss it. To talk to Krakoa's brand new X Factor. P.S. Feeling shy? Got a juicy tip for the hotline that you don't want to be associated with? Ask Krakoa to provide a fleet seed. Just whisper your message into the shell and it'll pass on the message for you. And so, as Polaris and North Star leave the Green Lagoon, with Polaris have been kind of, suggest the idea of an investigative task force for the greater good, to find out what happened to Aurora. They pass by a largely passed out Dakin. Well, they're talking about who's suitable and available. Well, first off, who's suitable, but Polaris kind of says that suitable happens after available. Dakin explains that he's available. But they don't want Dakin. So, Prodigy's available. As is Prestige. So, the North Star, Prodigy, Prestige, and Polaris meet up at the Vancouver Gate. And Dakin shows up. North Star doesn't want Dakin involved because, not because North Star doesn't want to work with reformed rabble, but rather because North Star doesn't enjoy messes, and Dakin is 12 kinds of messy. Meanwhile, there's a mutant wanting to go visit her mother with her kid, with her child, and well, maybe it's though the child doesn't much care for grandma. However, Dakin is able to calm the child down enough with his pheromone control. And, well, yeah. Arriving in Vancouver, Iboy then promptly joins them. And Prodigy is able to figure out that Northstar doesn't know his twin sister as well as he thinks because, well, yes. While Northstar claims she doesn't use social media, yeah, she does. And so they find a motel and Dakin goes to talk to the the desk clerk about her, while Rachel uses her chronoskimming powers to figure out what's going on. Apparently, in her last moments in the room, Aurora didn't seem to be in any distress. But it's not something. It's basically she needs a trail. Dakin uses his pheromone powers to talk to the desk clerk, get an idea of what happened with the with Aurora. And they find a point where a car went off the road. Turns out there are a lot of cars that went off the road at that spot. So they find the right one though, and inside is Aurora. So Northstar arrives at the arbor, delivers the body, says, "Okay, here's proof. She's dead." Hope immediately asks how she died, and everyone kind of says, "Well, hey, let's do an autopsy just to be sure." But Egg does ask if does Northstar know anything about why Aurora drowned? And it turns out that after Northstar left, the team found more. They figured out what happened. And with what's going on, Polaris actually kind of thinks that instead of telling the X-Men what's going on, they should actually go straight to the Council. So, X-Factor meets before the Council, gives a presentation of what happened, and yeah, Aurora was killed. Aurora did crash a car, which led to her drowning, but it was because she lost control of the car that ran over some caltrops, which messed the tires, and the owner of the vehicle, well, misjudged how about what point the rain would send the car into the water, and was taken out with it. And the Five speak up, kind of saying that this is something we actually kind of need. someone to investigate what happened. Basically make sure someone, if a mutant's missing, make sure they're dead. Find out how they died. The five, after all, are inundated with quite a few requests for resurrections. And Magneto asks if this is the assistance the Five had in mind, and yeah, actually it is. So Lorna is immediately offered leadership, but she declines and nominates Northstar. Lorna, as everyone leaves, Lorna has a discussion with her father. Before heading off and talking to Crick, and finding an empty spot in the Krakoan wilds. And we learned that Krakow is extremely mineral rich, so there's no shortage of metals for the daughter of the Master of Magnetism to work with. And she builds a giant spire, which the next morning Dakin promptly names the Boneyard. They, move in and, begin picking up their rooms, and the Five bring them a housewarming gift. A bagel plant. Tempest explains it. Hope explains that it starts with Montreal bagels, and she apologizes for that. Tempest explains that they tried it a few different times, but Ford then tells them about the fleet seeds. And they promptly get in there. And they're also working with Sage. And they're all. Suffice to say, they very quickly have a lot of cases. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Giant Size X-Men, Fantomex. So the issue begins seemingly with Fantomex's birth. Seems AIM was involved. Explained to the lab they're making they're cloning a baby over and over again, but each time they change one chromosome. However, they have somehow bred two that were exactly the same. The scientist in charge says, keep one and throw the other away. And so, a decade later, Fantomex is with the Howling Commandos. They raid the world. The world attacks back. And Fantomex comes upon his brother. And he asks him if he wants to leave. Brother says not yet, though. So, a decade after that, the Hellfire Club. Again, the world attacks. The attack is a bit more larger in scale. Fantomex talks to his brother. Says it's probably best if Fantomex stays away. After that, a decade goes by, and Fantomex says, he may just never go back. A decade later, however, he decides he is going back with the Humongonauts. They infiltrate the world and are promptly killed. Fantomex's brother states that they're building something in there and it cannot be stopped. Which brings us to one of Fantomex's first actual appearances during the new X-Men era. Which led to him and Wolverine teaming up. Him, Wolverine, and Cyclops teaming up, going into the world. And then we have now. Storm, Monet, and Cypher will come through a gate. Explain that Storm is dying, and that the best mutant science believes the only way to save her is inside the world. And so they need Fantomex to guide them. He has paid off an AIM scientist handsomely. And they enter. The issue ends with Fantomex saying, "Welcome to the world." And that is it. Presumably, Giant as X-Men Storm will complete the tale. Which brings us to Deadpool number 6. Where we left off in Deadpool, the King of Staten Island, had somewhat accepted the fact that Elsa Bloodstone was there, and maybe didn't entirely mean too much harm. So we begin. Deadpool's playing war with the Guide to Monsters cards. Yeah. He starts looking over them, and he's playing war with Jeffrey. It turns out that one of the monsters is actually a mutant. Jelby. So, okay, I gotta read this. And the X-Men have been so snooty about their fancy Krakoa gates, which is totally nuts, because even though I'm not a mutant, if you consider the fact that thanks to my movies, most people in the world believe I am a mutant, and we all know that if enough people believe it, then it's basically true, and so I should totally be allowed to get into Krakoa on, like, a technicality. Do they even answer phone calls about this? The answer is no. No, they don't. Meanwhile, they're in there sitting on maybe the cure for cancer. It's like, hello, I have the cancer, man. Like, how many times do I have to help those jackasses before they call me back? Or before they give a crap about me. I mean, yes, Rogue called me back. I'll give her that. But when I called her back, I heard she was a tree now. But then someone else said she was a lighthouse. It was all very confusing, which admittedly is very on brand for the X-Men, but still. And so, also sums it up rather succinctly by saying, what you're saying is the X-Men are fucking jerks. And, well, Wade's like, yes, thank you, finally, though she also adds that it's part of their charm, isn't it? So, the idea is that Jelby, who can expand himself over anything, will cover Wade and, well, also Jeff, who, while Wade's crawling into Jelby, promptly bites Wade in the ass. And they go through the Krakoan Gate in Washington Square. And so Wade gets out, Wade and Jeff get out, and of course, Sage is alerted 2 non-mutant, non-authorized breaches of the Manhattan 1 gate. So an Alpha team is sent to investigate. The Alpha team consisting of Wolverine, Magic, Beast, Armor, Storm, and Polaris. They're not exactly happy to see Wade. Who, says, hey, I figured that, his invitation got lost in the mail. He also promptly calls the X-Men a bunch of fascists, and, well, Wolverine's kind of done with it, so Magic breaks Wade's nose and thinks Jeff is adorable, asking if, they can keep Jeff. And so Wade goes to talk to Emma, immediately starting off with kissing her ass. And it's explained that Rogue actually made an impassioned plea on Wade's behalf, noting that he should have been invited to visit given both his new status as King of Staten Island and also as someone who's frequently been a friend and ally. And Emma agrees with her. She also makes it clear that no, they don't have they do not have the cure for cancer on Krakoa. And she does apologize for that. And everything that Wade suggested about, being basically having a pass is, no. No summer house like the one on the moon. No unlimited Krakoa pass. No flowers to plant for their own gates on Staten Island. No, none of it. Part of the reason for their, the no on the gates is there are 2 in Manhattan. It's a ferry ride, so In the flower fields, however, Wade steals one of the flowers, gets stabbed by Wolverine, calls the X-Men absolute dillweeds. Storm fries him. He armor punches him. He fastball specials Jeff at Storm, who bites her in the face. Then Rogue breaks up the fight. Gives him a flower and says so she'll smooth it over with Emma. But he dumps the flower and just kind of says, he doesn't need their pity. Though Rogue and Logan say it's not pity, it's just friendship. Though he does kind of point out he's bleeding a lot from friendship. And Jelby has said that he actually wants to stay on Krakoa, since he is a mutant. But Ileana ends up taking them home. Though Wade doesn't entirely trust that, she's not going to just strand them in limbo hell. Though Ileana says she wouldn't do that to Jeff. So he goes back to Staten Island and starting to work on a sign, and well, it turns out that Jeff ate the flower and then promptly barfs it up. And decided that, no mutants on Staten Island. Elsa comes up. She's does have a bit of an issue. There's some kind of blight on her head. She's dying. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Captain America number 21. Where we left off, months and months ago, I think, the Power Elite were consolidating power. Captain America managed to somewhat clear his name, and it turns out that General Ross, who was believed to be dead at Cap's hand, was very much not dead. Also, the Power Elite have brought back, among others, Alexander Lukin. Though most are fairly certain that Lukin was not brought back by himself. So the issue begins in Hightown, Madripoor at a human trafficking auction. The Power Elite's man in Madripoor, basically, doing his public bit. Lucan takes a call from Celine. Who also is fairly certain that, yeah, it wasn't just Lucan who came back, but also the Red Skull. Meanwhile, Cap and Falcon are going to be infiltrating Adamsville, joining Bucky with with a pair of Wakandan image inducers. So they're given the rundown, and then we get to see one of Celine's sermons, so to speak. And Falcon, that was some powerful stuff that Celine was selling. So, but when are they going in? But looks like some of the locals are in trouble. So the heroes do heroics while Tari takes a moment to dance with Mrs. Lucan. Well, his niece talks to Alexander, explaining that, why does a dashing gentleman like Lucan bother with petty jealousy when he can so easily take what he wants and discard what he does not? In Adamsville, some of the locals are being brought before Celine and seemingly about to be fed upon when Cap, Falcon, and Winter Soldier save them. Falcon gets the civilians out. Though some of them appear to be thralls of Celine. And then the entire town turns out to be in her thrall, and they go after Cap. Back in Madripoor, Tari's on his way home. His driver stops, and Tari asks why they're stopping, and the driver explains that they're stopping so that the driver can take what he wants. As he turns and looks at Tari, revealing himself to be the Red Skull. And explaining that he's going to discard what he does not want, as a scream emanates from the car. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Ant-Man number 4. Where we left off in Ant. First off, I honestly thought that Ant-Man was one of the various miniseries that had been relegated to to the conclusion on digital only. But apparently not. So here we are with the conclusion. Ant-Man discovered some rather powerful bugs, and they have a plan to take over the world. And he's inadvertently helped them with that. The issue begins with Pam the Ant explaining that who she is and what her job is. Her job is watching which ants come in and which ants go out. And she knows the bug smell of all the ants of her hill. If a bug that doesn't belong shows up, she makes the scream smell. But she couldn't make enough when the death smell was made. And these ugly bugs came from the man eggs. The pin particles. And she's telling Ant-Man all of this before she herself dies. And they know that the ants are headed to the Savage Land. So Ant-Man and Stinger decide that they're going to get the pin particles back for Scott and for Pam. In the Savage Land, Macrothrax goes to meet with the bug overlords. Vetroc, king of the bees, wasps, and ants. Phthira, queen of the biting wingless. Crematrix, queen of the web spinners. And he tells them of the pin particles. And how the smallest bug may be made as powerful as the bug lords. And he offers to lead an army across the globe, killing mammals at their feet. However, Vetroc is not fond of this idea and punishes him for his insolence. Afterwards, Macrothrax decides that the bug lords, their vision's too small. And so, using the last of their pin particles, Stinger and Ant-Man arrive. And Macrothrax sends Vespa against the two of them, however. And Stinger decides she's going to use the add-ons of her helmet, her bug speak. The Vespa says that there are too many minds, too many for tiny bug speak. And she stops Vespa. I don't recall the name of Macrothrax's other henchbug, but as it goes after, as Cassie stops it, Macrothrax snags Cassie's helmet and tosses Stinger, Cassie, down a pit, and Scott comes in after her. Forgetting he can't fly, though Stinger can. So, Macrothrax puts on the helmet, goes back to speak to the bug lords, and tells Phthira and Crematrix to kill Vetroc, which they do. Then he holds out the pin particles and says, "And no communion." And the next, as Stinger's bringing Ant-Man out of the hole, we see that, they've taken their communion and are the surviving Bunglers have taken their communion and have grown much larger. Macrothrax declaring himself the new king of the World Hive. He's the slayer of Fitrock, the tamer of Phthira, and the rider of Trematrix. And he will grind the world of apes to dust. And yeah, damn it, I really screwed up this time. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Avengers of the Wasteland #4. Yet another miniseries I thought was relegated to a digital-only conclusion. Where we left off, the Avengers were... the Avengers of the Wasteland were, doing what they could to stop, to stem Doom's attacks on various settlements. And they actually managed to get from a Doombot the coordinates of an upcoming attack. The issue begins over in San Antonio, in contested Hydra territory. Baron Strucker is raising a Hydra army. And they're going to take down New Babylon and take down Doom. When Doom shows up and basically, annihilates Hydra, including, and even, kills Strucker. Our heroes arrive in Osborn City, the location they were, told to go to, and, well, yeah, it's a trap. They're promptly attacked by the Green Goblin, Absorbing Man, Wild Child, Shocker, and Enchantress. With MODOK narrating, announcing. Enchantress goes after Thor. Wild Child goes after Hulk, knowing that, yeah, his nails won't break Hulk's skin, but maybe they can do something with his eyeballs, and, well, they can. Absorbing Man goes after Vision, who actually gets rid of him. He manages to stop him. Sure, he can replicate anything he touches, but he cannot replicate what Viv can do, such as separating her molecules and then reassembling them. Shocker then takes a shot at her, and Green Goblin lets slip that Ant-Man, Dwight, might actually be might actually be a traitor to the team. Enchantress tries to use Hulk to cause some trouble. Wild Child goes after Vision. Ant-Man repairs his helmet, puts it back on, and calls a swarm of locusts, which promptly kill the 3 remaining villains. And then Viv goes and takes out MODOK. But Ant-Man then explains exactly what happened. He made a deal with Doom. Apparently, Doom didn't kill everyone in Dwight's town. He kept a few alive, mostly women and children. And Doom stated that he will give Ant-Man a chance to redeem himself. Explaining that there are, Cap and Hulk are in, or Thor and Hulk are in California, pretending to be Avengers like Dwight. Bring them to Doom, and Doom will let what's left of Dwight's people go. If Dwight fails him, His people will die, and he will be sure to let them know it was his failure that cost them their lives. He was given encrypted data to where to find them, what route to take. And then when Grant came along, he thought that maybe he was waiting for Doom and sent to keep an eye on him. Grant's not too keen on, Dwight still being on the team, but Danny makes a good point. Dwight did what any of them would do. He's trying to save his people, which is what the Avengers do. And apparently the people of New Babylon need them. And that is where the issue ends. And that's it for this portion of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.